Hello, racing fans, and welcome back to Race in Review, episode 2, post Australia. My name is John, and I'll be hosting tonight, and I'm joined by none other than the man with the best hair in the business. He's back. Welcome back, James.
Hello, how's it going?
It's good to have you back, mate. I honestly thought you were wearing red this week, but still not.
Nah, I didn't think to change before the show, so you just got me in my work clothes.
We'll keep you reminding you next week.
Yeah.
And joining us, of course, as well as the head of the dynamic trio this time, it is Mr. Blue himself. He's an orange fan, but hey, wearing blue suits you, Graeme. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. Yeah, it's my favourite colour, so we'll stick with it.
Yeah, can you explain why you prefer blue over orange before people can call you a Red Bull fan?
Just it's my favourite colour.
Oh,
suppose.
Nothing to do with the football club you support.
That helps as well, but
It's good to have you back, guys. Guys, post Australia, we had the first Grand Prix. It has started. The season officially started. We still don't know how many tracks or rounds we'll actually get, but we're getting there. We'll know soon enough, I guess. James, is it time to restart an old tradition, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Shall I try to do the race recap in 1 minute?
Go for it.
All right. So race recap in 1 minute. Let's talk Melbourne. The 2026 season opener at Albert Park did not disappoint, or did it? We'll talk about that soon enough. It was a heartbreak before the lights even went out for home hero Oscar Piastri, who crashed on his way to the grid. A nightmare start for McLaren. But once the racing began, it was a Mercedes masterclass. George Russell converted pole into a brilliant win, leading in dominant Silver Arrows 1-2. But of course, the teenage sensation Kimi Antonelli taking a stunning P2 while actually riding off his car in practice session 3. Ferrari gave them a run for the money early on, with Charles Leclerc snatching the lead at turn 1, but a strategic gamble during a VSC triggered by Isaac Hadjar's engine failure backfired for the Scuderia. Leclerc had to settle for P3 just ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who finished 4th in his race in red. And how about the comeback of the day? Max Verstappen starting from the very back and P20, which these days isn't the very back even anymore. But after a qualifying disaster, he carved through the field like a surgeon to finish P6. Special mentions, of course, go to Ollie Behrman in P7 and Lindblad, who scored points on his debut for Racing Bulls. Mercedes is officially back, the new regulations are wild, and the hunt is on. Next up, China. James, how did I do, mate?
Yeah, pretty good. Back on form.
Yeah, not 1 minute and 2 seconds, but hey.
Oh, well, that's the feeling, isn't it? That's 2 seconds.
Stop and go penalty for me.
Yeah.
Talk about stop and go penalties. Let's start with Graeme. Graeme, first race. Was it a hit or was it a flop? Do you like it or didn't you like it?
I'd say somewhere in the middle there for me. It was good. It was entertaining, but I still think we're missing a bit of magic that I think we'll only get once the teams start to really get used to the new engines and everything, providing that they don't change any rules, or if they do change the rules, that they get a hang of them quite quickly.
What is the thing you did like?
A lot more action. Yeah, a lot of it was maybe strategic, holding their power to allow somebody to fly by to then use the power that they saved to get by them again. Obviously, Ferrari's call to stay out was very interesting. That probably wasn't the best call, but it still made the race a little bit more interesting. And obviously, Lindblad done really well, Max done really well, Ollie Behrman done really well. So, and then obviously the start was quite frantic as well. So there were some bits where you're like, but overall, I thought it was decent enough.
James, I see you nodding there in the corner. You agree with Graeme?
Yeah, for the most part, I enjoyed it. I liked the cat and mouse that we were sort of expecting with the battery deployment and the fact that, yeah, you've got your overtake and your boost zones, but there is an element of strategy to how you use your battery around the entire lap. And there's sort of, like Graeme just said, like someone getting an overtake done but you don't know whether the person being overtaken was saving the battery. In some cases, it did later on kind of look that was the case, and then they would make a move back again. I was just quickly looking up while he was talking. We got 120 overtakes in that race. Like, that's phenomenal for Formula One. So I'm hoping that aspect doesn't kind of sort of thin out as people get or as the teams get used to the rules. Obviously, things will change, but hopefully the overtaking stays pretty good. But those first like 10 or 15 laps, however many it was, I thought that was an amazing start to the season. The actual start itself as well was so much more interesting, a little bit chaotic, but just
No crashes.
no crashes, a very near miss, but or maybe a couple of very near misses, but generally, yeah, it was just interesting because normally, like, unless somebody makes a mistake, it's pretty straightforward, or it has been historically, and it seemed on Sunday that it wasn't quite so straightforward, obviously, for the teams. And there's the stuff with the turbos and the lights. Obviously, they went out very quickly. Whoever was in control of the lights was not messing around. So,
Well, actually,
it's
made
random,
four,
isn't it? To be fair, actually, it's the hit a button and then it randomizes how long.
Got to ask Graeme, but I had a rumor the fifth light never turned on.
Um,
I'm pretty sure it did in the broadcast when I was watching it, but
I can't say I noticed. I did think it was really quick, but I can't say I didn't notice if the light came on or not.
I didn't check, but I had a lot of people messaging me, shouldn't there be 5 lights? Maybe it was so fast that people didn't see it, though.
yeah, maybe. I mean, they
myself
went.
either.
Yeah, the lights went out almost instantly, did they? But it is randomized, isn't it? So that, like, even the race director doesn't know how long the lights are going to be on for. He just, or she, whoever, hits the button, and then it just kind of automatically picks a random time. So
It's just like our podcast recording. Sometimes it just goes on. You don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, ultimately, I thought it was a really, really, really good first showing. There was some aspects that were a little bit worrying, but yeah, otherwise, I thought it was pretty good. What did you think, John?
I don't want to be like the, how do you call it? Mr. Negative today. I was very wary. I didn't like the fact, for example, like qualify. And I really, let's start with the qualifying. I really, really hated qualifying. Absolutely disgusted by qualifying because the cars didn't go full out. Nobody did. Nobody could, I should say. Like, there's always lift and coast. That last corner is normally just on a knife's edge, just barely scraping either the side, And now everyone was like, we need to go in slow there, else we don't have energy for straight anymore, which felt so clunky for me. Some drivers actually took a different line in the last 2 corners, like, just to make sure they got a decent enough run up. And that just felt so unlike Formula One that it made my skin crawl a little bit, if I'm honest. Like, Formula One isn't just going fast on the straights, it's also going faster than any other car in the world on a corner. And that was definitely not happening there. So, and the qualifying was the best, like, honestly, the best part. Every qualifying last year was just instant, like, extremely interesting. And this one was just very much predictable and not very interesting to watch, except for the crashes. So that was just my take. What I do like about qualifying, I was afraid people were getting getting too busy with 22 cars and the news rules, but that wasn't the case. That worked out well. So I guess that's it.
I think it's helped by the fact that the backing up towards the end of the lap is less of a problem. I mean, they don't do it as much anyway because of the rules with, like, having to set a specific time once you've crossed the pit line and exited the pits. But the way they were backing up, like, nobody really got a run ruined even starting a lap because they didn't actually start the lap until they were already on the straight. So
exactly, and
they were trying to fly around that final corner. So like, the whole backing up thing didn't become an issue even when it did happen a little bit. So
no, there's that, and the fact that they don't do one run. They don't do a warming up lap and then one run and then go back in. Some of them did 6-7 laps in a row, just
Yeah, they
to
did.
keep trying and kept managing the battery, or they messed up managing the battery, took another lap, just to slow drive owners. Sometimes not perfect circumstances or certain lines they shouldn't be taken, as Lewis, for example. But there's the strategies were so different that it actually didn't cause any jams, which was all right, but it was hard to follow, I think, and the onboard just looks like even the TV direction, which I will have plenty to complain about as well if we have time. But they definitely cut off some of the straights when the car reached the end of the straight and it started what they call super clipping, what you mentioned last week, Graeme. Super clipping is just a fancy word for the car can't go any faster and there goes the battery. Whenever that happened, they just switched off and went to the different camera position so you didn't hear it. And that I found so... it's not perfect, but they also don't... Like, the way they work around it feels so artificial that qualifying wasn't it. Yeah. But the race itself, that was your original question. 15 laps, very good. I see everyone talking about the Ferrari split strategy of safety car miss thingy. I don't necessarily think that was an issue because I don't think Ferrari was anywhere honestly clear, like near to Mercedes, and this was their way of trying something else for in case a proper safety car happened further on. And I can actually respect that you don't want to go like, oh, maybe we can get a podium or second place here. No, if it happens, we just want to go for a full race win here. That's why they probably didn't bring it in, because they were expecting maybe a safety car, and that would give them a massive benefit under that circumstances. Yeah. So I sort of don't think it's a Ferrari miss, if I'm quite honest. I actually thought it was like a proper strategy, or am I crazy there already?
One thing that did irritate me a little bit about that was clearly they were waiting for a second opportunity for, a VSC or a safety car or whatever. And when Bottas broke down at the pit entry, they originally just threw out yellow flags.
Yeah.
There was clearly going to be some sort of safety car, and they waited until Ferrari and the other leaders had gone past before they declared the virtual safety car on that. And that felt very...
And then they came back, and then they closed the pit lane.
Yeah, and then they closed the pit lane because they were trying to push a car down the pit lane, so they had to. But that should have just immediately been a virtual car of some description, virtual or otherwise, because there's a car very much stranded in a position where you need to get marshals to clear it, and it is kind of in the firing line of the final corner, or the penultimate corner, sorry. So it felt to me like they were trying not to give Ferrari an advantage by giving them the virtual safety car that they were hoping for, and in doing so, they still influenced the race by doing that. And I that was probably the only thing that annoyed me. That felt like a very Formula One moment, and I'm...
Well, another un-Formula One moment. Let's get Graeme for this, talking about safety cars. We had a VSC when Hadjar broke down on the straight after turn 9. But the marshals just pushed the car off during a VSC. I've never seen that before. Was that weird? Or
yeah, it's weird because you said that.
And with the rubble on the debris on the track as well, they just removed it during a VSC.
Yeah, they jumped on and they just lifted it. It's strange that I can't recall a time where they've simply done something like that. But if it means we can get off the track quicker and get back to racing quicker, I don't mind it as long as it's safe for everybody. So it's strange, but if it means better racing, then can we complain to a degree? But it was a bit crap for Ferrari's luck when obviously they pulled that on them, but it's part of racing, isn't it? You've got to constantly re-strategize and pick your moments.
Yeah, probably fair enough. All right. I got some hot topics which I want to discuss with you guys, though.
All right.
They're back. The hot topics are back. What do we do? I'm going to give you a discussion point. You can either say yes or no, so pro or con, and just see how we duke it out, all right?
All right.
I'm going to ask this first question to Graeme. Graeme, did Lewis Hamilton make a mistake leaving Mercedes?
Yes. I think he did. Yeah, the ground effect era wasn't their best era, but they're always one of the top teams, and I still think even George Russell and Kimi, they were pushing that car last year with his expertise and skills. I reckon he could have maybe got more podium points and everything than the other two drivers did. So I think he made a mistake, but he went with his heart that if Ferrari come calling, can you really reject them? That I'm not a massive Ferrari fan, but I get the whole appeal. It's like Barcelona, Real Madrid in football. If that big name comes calling, can you turn them down? So I think, like I said, realistically, I think it was a mistake that the car just doesn't suit him, but I don't think he could actually turn it down.
James.
I'm kind of stuck on the fence a little bit on this one because it's not just...
It's the whole point of this topic, so that's good.
I know, but it's not just Lewis, is it? Because he wanted to be an ambassador for the Mercedes brand. He wanted more than a one-year deal because he wants to secure his future, and he doesn't want to be left in a position where he gets dropped by Mercedes and there's no other competitive seats. He's thinking, about his career, and Mercedes weren't willing to give him that. So I don't think he made a mistake. I think he was just unfortunately pushed in a direction that he might not have wanted to go. I have a feeling that, there was a big thing about him always. He'd always driven with a Mercedes engine. And I think that was an achievement that he wanted to keep for his entire career, personally. And I think probably the biggest factor for deciding to go to Ferrari when they started pursuing him was just the fact that he was going to be able to get the deal that he wanted, and that Mercedes weren't willing to offer. And I don't think it was even down to the money. I mean, I know that Ferrari have paid him an exceptional amount of money, but I don't think it was down to that. I think it was just down to the fact that he needed some sort of job security, effectively, and just to be in one of the front-running teams and not find himself in a position where he's getting dropped by a front-running team and there's no other seats available that are competitive. And yeah, the Mercedes is currently looking really, really good. Probably will be really, really good for the entire season. And at the moment, favourites got to be with what was it, like 0.7 of a second over Ferrari in qualifying between George Russell and Leclerc. Pretty dominant win in the race, but it's a long season. I don't think every track is going to suit Mercedes. It's often the case. And obviously temperatures as well, potentially having an influence as we get to hotter locations. So, yeah, to answer the question, I'm going to say no. I'm just going to say no because of those reasons, basically.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, next topic. Mercedes has already ended the 2026 title fight in round one. James.
No. That's got to be a no. I think that if they are doing something very special with the software, that's allowing the batteries to be charged and deployed in the way that they're doing, every other Mercedes team has the same software. It's just down to how they configure it and use it. So the other teams are going to figure that out, I'm sure. If the FIA decides to step in, which I wouldn't be surprised because they don't like when there's such a big discrepancy in the field, then obviously that'll have an impact. And I do think that, we're at the start of some new regulations, and there's always the opportunity for some very big gains during development. It's only as you sort of get to the end of the regulations where everything starts to flatline. So I think there's still a lot of scope for basically any team to make a significant jump forwards, other than maybe Aston Martin.
I got a topic about that soon. Don't worry. Graeme, season over? Done deal for Merc?
No, I don't think so either. As James says, allegedly it's just software. There's been some speculation that maybe it's more complicated with other aspects of the car, but as James hinted, that there might be changes, and we've heard from the Telegraph today that there is some changes that might come in after China, maybe some after Japan as well, with regards to super clipping, harvesting power. So if it is down to software and then there's going to be these changes, you never know, but that advantage could be early, but one or two races that they might get a nice wee buffer, but anybody could claw that back quite quickly. All you need is a couple of DNFs or a bad crash or whatever, and that advantage is really removed. So they look very dominant, but if these changes do come through, like the Telegraph are saying, then I'd say a good guess that McLaren and Ferrari will make it really, really close. And then also there's still Red Bull there as well to take points, so still easy enough and early enough for somebody to claw it back.
I applaud you guys' enthusiasm. I do. So I'm. This is going to be the one I'm going to talk about, though, because I was going also for a little bit of a deep dive while discussing this. Right? Have you guys heard of the additional development and upgrade opportunity rule?
I've heard of it.
ADUIO, it's called.
I've not looked at it fully, but I've seen it being mentioned over the weekend.
Is this the one that was getting pushed by Horner and some of the other teams last year and possibly the year before too? Because in the past, once an engine's basically homologated, is effectively a done thing, isn't it? And unless they can prove that an upgrade is or in the past, unless they could have proved that an upgrade was for the purposes of reliability, they couldn't just do engine upgrades.
Yes,
so they had to prove it.
Basically, this is freeze engine development, but this isn't the engine freezing development rule itself. This means you can upgrade your engine, if the difference between the best engine and the worst engine is, your engine, I should say, is more than 4% during race weekends. The difference is more than 4%, then you are allowed to make changes to your engine. Here comes the kicker. Mercedes was managing it so well, it was at 3.5% this weekend. So my opinion is that Mercedes is still driving at like 85, 90% maximum just to maintain that cap. And the only team that is where Honda comes in was below that 4%, way over that 4%, I should say, was Honda. And that's why they can make a change to their engine. But I found it a weird rule because you also have the cost, the budget cap. So it's not like you can unlimited spend money on your engine anyways. So why do you freeze it when these new regs come in? And that's why I'm thinking this season might be over really early, because the other engines won't get those massive upgrades. I think as long as that 4% isn't hit, and Mercedes is damn well going to be making sure that's not going to be hit anytime soon. They have so much leeway over it now.
Yeah, and there's only so many engine suppliers. So, if all Mercedes really need to worry about is making sure that Ferrari don't go beyond that 4%.
Red Bull got the fastest lap. So you look at that way, there's no way you're not even...
I mean, these rules were implemented for a situation like Aston Martin.
Yes.
And for a while, the worry was that it was going to be Red Bull was going to be in this boat. Red Bull have actually come out flying. They're doing great. The purpose of it really was so that if a team is doing so poorly and it is down to the engine, such as Aston Martin, they can put some money into that instead. Because look at Aston Martin as the example. Like, they are performing so poorly, and a lot of it, well, pretty much all of it, looks to be down to the engine. That even if they threw all of their money, for the remainder of the season, the remaining budget into developing, changes to the front wing, the rear wing, other aero parts, like, that's never going to counteract enough the engine deficit issue that they have. And that's why they discussed and agreed to this sort of rule.
Yes, but if you have a cost, like a budget, a maximum spending anyways, why would you freeze the engines at the start of a regulation anyways? Because if, for example, if Red Bull wants to spend all the money on the engine, if they could, let them. Other teams will do it on the aero if needed. It feels like it is a rule implemented to protect Mercedes this year, and of course, Aston Martin a little bit. But and maybe I'm not saying it is in there because Mercedes needs protection for this, but it's a rule which is definitely being looked at as Mercedes currently to protect their lead. And seeing Russell's on board during the qualifying, seeing him, they said do the 28.8s, and he's perfectly doing 10 in a row, 28. He's not driving on max capacity anyways. His car is being slowed down still.
It's going to benefit Mercedes, but it's not like it was developed for Mercedes. Like, this is just a bad...
Although they do have 4 teams driving their engines.
Well, yeah, this is what I mean. This is what I mean about the engine supplier problem, because you've got a team like Mercedes that has the most engines in the sport, right? The most teams. So if, like, let's look at Alpine. If Alpine were were over that 4%, well, they can't change their engine, can they? They buy their engine from Mercedes, and Mercedes have got the fastest engine. So, it is an odd one, and it feels like it hasn't probably been thought fully, and is maybe a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to, like Horner and some of the other team principals that were concerned.
Probably Audi, which done.
Yeah, probably Audi as well, to be fair. Yeah, you're right, because they're brand new to Formula One. With obviously a brand new engine, and they don't have any experience in it, like where Red Bull to some extent do, because even when it was technically Honda for the last couple of years, it was still sort of run in house by Red Bull as they were bringing things in. So
just backfired, and I think that's why the season is already a little bit hampered, honestly, because we saw the internal combustion engine being very important. Not only the battery recharge that Mercedes had was very important, but the ICE itself, like if you look at that power of the engine, is just...
I don't know. I think Ferrari's pretty close. I think if they can sort out their battery charge and deployment to the standard that Mercedes have got theirs to, then I think Ferrari do have a chance. And I think Ferrari have been pretty innovative this year as well with some of the things that they've brought to their cars during testing and this first race. They're definitely kind of not necessarily playing it safe like they have done in the past. So I'm still of the opinion that there's opportunity for another team or other teams to catch up.
That's good. I'm happy. I'm only I'm actually happy. I'm the only negative one today. Keep this show going, and maybe I'm just a little bit too critical.
I thought I would be more negative, but like I said, I have got more hope that it will get better. But you're saying about the ice power there, given that the compression test is going to change in June, that could hamper Mercedes if they fall foul of it. Like, there's so much up in the air that could change Mercedes.
Although normally that would cause like 4 or 5 extra horsepower, and they're not using the full engine. So I doubt that makes a difference, honestly.
Maybe not, but if it's entirely down to software for the batteries, then that's something that any of the teams can improve on, especially any of the Mercedes teams that have got that same setup. They have the same the same combustion engine, they've got the same batteries, they've got the same software. If it's all just down to configuring it and making use of it, another Mercedes team is surely going to unlock that.
Cool. Oh, let's hope so. And I can see that point. And I wanted to save the topic Mercedes engine suppliers for a post show where we don't have a race upcoming. But I think there are also, I've heard that the Mercedes team got their first peek at the actual engine this weekend, where Mercedes was already running their race weekend engine in Bahrain practice, for example. So they got a head start.
Sorry, which two? Do you mean McLaren?
Yes.
McLaren, Alpine and Williams only got the actual race engine prior to the race weekend, so they were running on a sort of dummy engine. And then Stella was saying even at that, they've asked a lot of questions and basically been fed a lot of vague nothingness from McLaren, from Mercedes. So obviously Mercedes are playing a bit cat and mouse with their customers, like try to keep that advantage, which is within the right. But in the what's the word I'm trying to think of, the sport itself, that in getting fairness, it's not exactly brilliant if you're withholding something from somebody that's buying something from you. But again, like when it comes to every second counts, like you're going to do everything you can. So
yeah, I think Mercedes. Well, I don't think I'm almost positive that Mercedes won't like the fact that McLaren won the Constructors' Championship rather than the Works Mercedes team for the past 2 years. And that's probably part of the reason why they're holding their cards close to the chest and just being a bit coy about it all, which it is. I think it is bad and it is negative. Like, if you're supplying engines, at the end of the day, the sport really should be what comes first, but the teams are never going to see it like that. That's why they argue all the time and, put themselves first when they're making their cases for, like flexi wings or what was the mini DRS or whatever it was that McLaren had and all that, like all these to and fro's and politics within Formula One.
Fair enough. We'll see how the next race goes, right?
Yeah.
Last but not least, the manual override and active aero is actually very dangerous. The 50-kilometer speed deltas on the straights are a recipe for a massive crash. Let's start this one with James.
Dangerous, yeah, probably. Was it qualifying or was it practice when Colapinto was going very, very slow on the racing line and Hamilton?
Yeah, it was practice, but yeah, that was.
Practice, So, I mean that.
We saw some during the race as well. So
yeah, that example with Colapinto was a very extreme example compared to what we saw during the race and qualifying.
Norris said he had cars driving 50 kilometers slower in front of him on the straight than he was going.
Yeah, I can believe it. If the battery's, not fully deployed or fully charged or whatever, and they're at different phases of that deployment during a lap, like there's the Australia, there's, the back straight, call it a straight, it's more of a corner, isn't it? But, there's...
Max went straight there, though.
I think what they could do with that, they could have the lights on the back of the car do something to help display what's going on with the car in front.
Pink flashlights.
Yeah, just something. I mean, even, obviously...
And a horn.
Well, no, maybe not a horn. I don't think anyone would hear that anyway, but... just a different set of light, like a different set of light colours for depending, if their maximum speed is X and they're going X minus whatever percentage, then maybe there should be some lights flashing that's a different colour. And then the drivers coming up behind can see that they are definitely going slow.
Can you see this happening in Monaco, Graeme, where you turn around the corner and there's a car recharging where you go flat out?
Would David notice if they change the lights? Because Lando Norris was mainly the main person saying that a lot of the time that they're too busy trying to monitor everything on the steering wheel with their dials and everything, that he hit the cooling duct that came off Kimi's car. So even if there was lights, like, would they notice it if they're too busy trying to charge the battery, deploy the battery, fiddling about with all the knobs and the gears and everything? So at Monaco, it could be a recipe for disaster. That we've seen in the tunnel, was it last year? Is it Cadger that just narrowly avoiding somebody? So,
we might not go to Baku, but or Jeddah, tracks like that might be.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Graeme.
You're going to hope that as the season goes on, the regs get more obviously accustomed to the drivers and the teams, that they get better at noticing things and obviously get better at managing the whole situation. But early days, it does seem very dangerous. So I don't know if an extra light or anything would make much of a difference, but if it what's the harm in trying it? Because the worst is somebody could get really hot.
Yeah, I mean, the other option, all the teams have access to telemetry, don't they? They can see the map, the track layout, and where the other cars are on the track. The engineers, I mean, it's happening on the straight. The engineers can also just get on the radio and say, car ahead's going slow, and let them know. That's another option.
Or a separate line on the track where
you
got to be in when you recharge.
The other thing as well, like we saw towards the second half of the race, that even after 3 practice sessions qualifying, they were still really optimizing how to run the race, even like during the race, like the way they were deploying the batteries and the way the cars were just performing in general. Everything sort of seemed a bit hectic and like everybody had gone into the race blind. It was almost like a sprint weekend. That like first half of the race, it felt very kind of like all the teams were finding their feet and how to use their batteries, how to drive the cars, how to optimize tires as well. You're right. And then by the second half of the race, it all just seemed to sort of calm down a little bit, and it felt. I know the cars were spread out and there was field spread as well, so you know that sort of that impacts things as well, and how dramatic things can look, because you know there's not potentially like 6 cars all within 2 seconds or whatever. But it just felt like everybody kind of started to find their feet, started to understand the cars and how to optimize the cars around that track. So maybe it becomes less of an issue at future races as they get more and more used to these cars. Plus, if they're going to make any changes, potentially, as Graeme was saying earlier on, for China or Japan, maybe they'll have impacts, you know, the super clip-in stuff and how much slower some of the other cars are at any given point on a lap. So, yeah, it looked dangerous on Sunday for certain, but I'm hoping that it improves.
Cool. Me too. I don't know. I felt a little bit too early, but I saw some risky situations, let's put it like this, which made me wonder what would happen if, for example, Lewis would crash straight into Colapinto on the straight. That would be good.
That would have just been an airplane crash. That would have been absolutely horrific.
Don't want to think about it.
Speed difference. Yeah.
So that was one look. And when Norris went over the debris, and like Graeme mentioned, I was like, mate, you can look ahead. You can just, it's on the middle of the road. Why you're running over it, right? Instead, like, that's just silly. And then afterwards, she did an interview. It was like, yeah, I'm on the straights. I'm just watching my wheel. I'm not even watching the road because I know around when the corner comes, I'll look up. Yeah. But else, I'm not even looking forward to like, okay, that does make sense actually.
Yeah, and at that point, you know, it was double yellows, or what was that? Was that during qualifying? It turned into a red flag situation anyway, didn't it? So, but they're watching like deltas and stuff like that, aren't they? When they're under any kind of flag situation like that. So, yeah, they're looking at the wheel a lot because they need to make sure they're not going too fast and then scoring a penalty that way. So, yeah.
Oh well, that's what it is, guys. Predictions. We were predicting the race. We're not going to go into too much details. Well, like I said, we made a racing review fantasy league, which you can join with the link below under the show description. You can join us. Nobody actually did so far, so there's just 3 of us in the thing. I'm first, just saying 217 points, but that was too weird because I used a multiplayer on Russell and I said Mercedes would take the most points, so got that pretty spot on, which is cool. We can also do F1 Predict in the same play where you do race-specific results, which I want to go into in a moment. Anyways, I'm first, 217 points. James, you are second, 191 points, which is actually a really good score because I betted everything on Mercedes. Something went wrong there. You would have easily got past me there.
Yeah, I spread my team out quite a bit, to be honest. Yeah.
And so did Graeme. He went the smarter move by not putting on a team, but on Racing Bulls and Haas. And still got a pretty good score at 157 points there, actually. So I think he was unlucky with Hadjar, which was one of your top drivers in this.
Yeah. I think you'd have been in second place above me with Hadjar and had that.
So first race, pretty close. 217, 191 and 157. Which was cool, though. We also have a separate prediction. And I don't like to boast on my own predictions, but I was top 1% in the world with predicting everything. The only thing I didn't get right was the podium, which I actually said it was going to be George, Leclerc, and Kimi, and it was, of course, George, Kimi, and Leclerc. I still got a hefty amount of points there, but almost everything I got right, including the amount of teams hitting Q3, the amount of finish cars. Thanks for Stroll, by the way, there, Graeme, because that one didn't count.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that for people who are watching? Like, why didn't Stroll actually get the point or get a qualifier?
So he's not classified as finishing the race because he only finished 72% of the race. Because he was that far behind, you need to finish 90% of the laps available, and obviously just been so far behind, he doesn't count as finishing the race at all. So
12 laps or something? How much was it?
I've seen somebody saying 15.
15.
12 to 15 laps behind or something like he was. It was just
it's down a lot. Yeah. Well, I went in the pits, didn't he, and then came back out later on.
Mm-hmm.
They were just using it as a test session. I think, didn't they do the same with Alonso? Didn't he pit and come back out?
Yes, but he actually had to stop the car later on.
Yeah, he did retire, yeah. But, yeah.
Because he was off, and I was like, hey, why is he back? Also, Alonso, that start from P17 to P10 within the first lap. Amazing.
Yeah, great.
Although Race Direction completely missed that, but hey.
Yeah.
They also missed, I think, 90% of Max's overtakes until he became like 7th position. And it's like, oh, there's Max Verstappen. Like, yep, he's been overtaking 13 people already before they actually hit him on the...
To be fair to Race Direction on that one, a lot of that happened in the first, like, however many laps of the race when Leclerc and Russell were very, very close.
Yeah, but they've got a good, very picture-in-picture now. They know how to use it for other things when looking at girlfriends or now wives from drivers. They can also do it when there's actually action going on.
Maybe Matt just needs to put a bit more makeup on or something.
So, no, but it wasn't a boring start anyway, so there's plenty of action. But normally we get 20 replays of someone's girlfriend coming over in the pitch. And now it was like they could have just either show a replay later on. Because Alonso I actually saw after the race this onboard, and I was like, that is some proper racing. Colapinto's like avoidance there. Probably, I wouldn't say saving lives, but it could get close to that one. That was an awesome driving, but I saw that afterwards as well. Wasn't broadcast either. So there's plenty that was missed, I think. And that was just, again, unfortunate. And then my last thing was what's going on with the leaderboards, Graeme?
With the
I'm missing some numbers.
The decimal points been disappearing. Yeah, they never really explained that at all. Never said pre-season that they were removing it. And there's, as far as I can remember, there was no justification for it at all, which is weird.
Well, the official was we get used to see like the difference is plus 0.408, right? And now we just see plus 0.4. But there's a massive difference between 0.41 at Formula 1 and 0.49 in Formula 1. But the official statement was, at least that's what I heard afterwards. I don't know if the FIA or the FOM actually released a statement on it. Was like drivers just get 0.4 as well on the radios. So why we need the info?
Me personally, I don't mind. It didn't affect my viewing too much. I feel like they were rounding the numbers though, weren't they? So if it was
0.87 was 0.5, I thought.
Yeah.
And that I found rather distracting.
Yeah, but if you're rounding off, it's such a tiny amount of time, really, in the grand scheme of things. It is pretty much 1.5. If it was 1.48, it's very close to 1.5 anyway, isn't it? So to me, it didn't matter too much. And then when they did actually bring up like any kind of information on that bigger banner that kind of pops up at the bottom of the screen, like the AWS time to overtake thing and all that, it did kind of give you the numbers a bit more fully. So
plus that one gave battery charge.
Yes, it did, yeah.
And that was good.
Yeah.
Did you guys see any plus positions or minus positions? Because I totally missed those as well during the broadcast.
No, I would have liked to have seen those. Yeah. Oh no, actually, no. There was one point when I did see them.
I think they just pop up sporadically now. It's like, is it maybe like the cycle? I don't know, but I did notice it maybe once or twice. But
normally we get it after the start, and I can see like, oh, Alonso jumped 10 positions here or 7 positions.
That's when it's useful to see because it's so difficult to follow every single driver in a race start, isn't it? And also to remember the entire grid. So
I don't think everyone's on 3 iPads and watching it on big screens.
Exactly.
And stuff,
that's what I mean. Being able to reference it on that side panel where it would say, like, Alonso, gained 7 positions or however many it was. Like you feels like we missed that at the start, or at least I did.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, I was watching the race completely muted for the first half of it because I was in a hotel room and I didn't want to wake my partner up. So
I don't know if you're a professional or just a true gent.
I was just hungover, but yeah, I did actually enjoy it because I didn't get influenced by the commentary, and I kind of wanted that, to be honest, to not hear them trying to hype up potentially a unhypeable situation, because that's what they do, don't they? They're basically the spokespeople for the sport a lot of the time, and they will talk up even a dire situation. So first half of the race I felt like I was just forming my own opinion, so it was quite an interesting way to watch it.
No, which is what we expect from you, James.
Yeah.
This weekend time is a little bit better. We're going to China. 2 hours later, I think we start than this weekend. So I think that will be a relief, Graeme.
Yeah. I wasn't even contemplating staying up. I was far too busy on Sunday, so I just had to watch it on recap. So with it being a bit better timing, I probably will get up for this one and watch it live.
I was watching live, but not enjoying my rest of the day. So there's that.
So that's why I strategically knew, but my day was just too busy. So I'd rather my sleep and watch it later than try and fight the day tired. So China's been a better time. It's much better for us.
Cool. Quick predictions, not asking you who exactly, because you can do that in the predictions online. James, who's going to win the race?
Probably Russell again.
Graeme, who's going to get pole position?
Probably Russell, isn't it? I'm going to go and I'll say Charles.
Nice. Good one. James, who's getting the fastest pit stop? Which team?
Fastest pit stop? I don't even know who got the fastest pit stop this weekend.
Ferrari.
Ferrari did they? What was the time?
2.2, I think. But I'm now maybe talking out of my...
I could go with Red Bull. They've always been fast, and I think they'll be...
Oh, no, it was Lando. No. The fastest lap was... I can't even see it online. So sorry.
Fastest pit stop.
Fastest.
I'm just going to go with Red Bull. Red Bull are normally very, very fast at pit stops. So
it was Ferrari at 2.32, by the way. Sorry, you said Ferrari?
Oh, I said Red Bull.
Nice. I just wanted to hear you say it twice.
They didn't get a proper opportunity to do pit stops because they lost one of the cars before pit stops even happened, didn't they? So
yeah, and then Max had to wait before going out of the pit stop because of incoming traffic, which they did well, but that of course hampers your stop time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Graeme, fastest lap during the race. I'm not talking sprints. Please.
Go Max.
Awesome. He also got the fastest lap this weekend. And James, winner of the sprint race.
Probably George again, I think.
And Graeme, last but not least. Actually, I got one more question. Last but almost least, who's going to qualify first for the sprint?
Probably George. I'd love to pick somebody random, but I think George is just the obvious choice.
Yeah.
All right. Then I'm going to make it more exciting. You can answer this one, both of you. Who is going to be the first does not finish. Not that does not start. Does not finish during the race, James. Driver.
The safe bet is an Aston Martin because they are definitely not going to finish the race. Either of them.
First did not finish.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Lawson. He's just got form for barging into anybody and everybody. So, Lawson.
Well, we lost 2 drivers this weekend, by the way, before the race actually started, right? With Hulk and Piastri. So that's why I'm making a difference here. So Lawson for you, James. Yeah, Graeme.
I'll go Colapinto.
I knew that was good.
If George's favourite to win, and I think Colapinto's, regardless if he's amazing safe, and obviously he's one of the drivers that's just prone to being either crashing or hitting somebody. So I'm going to go Colapinto. Hedge my bets.
Probably a safe bet there as well. Now, we used to be able to answer this with Stroll always, but now we're not even sure he starts. So there's that risk in that one, I'm afraid.
Yeah. He's too slow to take anybody else out.
Yeah, he's just like Mario Kart, getting towards someone like, now I'm going to hit you, and then someone's gone. It just drives into a wall.
Yeah.
And no, I think that's it for the race. We'll see the qualifications. We'll see the sprint race. It's going to be interesting. But the biggest difference, and we'll talk about this in a separate show when we don't have Grand Prix coming up, the new tires are also aren't acting, I think, as people expected them to act. So that might be a difference maker in the season as well. No softs used except for 2 starters, I think, this weekend. Nobody else used soft, so there might be something there. And I don't think anyone drove fast lap or fastish lap sort of on those hards. So probably going to see a lot of mediums, although China is a known tire eater, I think, as well. We'll see how that actually ends out. All right. Looking forward to this weekend, guys. See you guys next week. And remember, if you're listening to this podcast, press that like and subscribe button. It is totally free and it does help us tremendously. Leave us a 5-star review. That just costs you about 10 seconds of your time, but that will mean the world to us. And of course, we'll see you next week. We release every Tuesday, 8 a.m. UK. See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.